Hello, my name is Fidencio Cons de Leon, and I'm going to be presenting a few subjects from the African diaspora in Mexico. I decided to choose Mexico mainly because I'm from there and because I was so interested in knowing even more about my own country and how African and Mexican cultures can blend together. Mexico was one of the last countries in actually recognize its African descent population. In 2015, for the very first time in 200 years, thanks to the government and an African descent population survey was performed. It resulted that 1.2% of the Mexican population is Afro-Mexican, which corresponds to 1.2 million people. And half a million of people identified themselves as African descent, making a total of 1.7 million people of African descent in the whole country. It is known that the highest population of Afro-Mexicans is in Costa Chica, which is a region that is in between the states of Oaxaca and Guerrero. The second biggest region that is mostly populated by Afro-Mexicans is in the state of Veracruz. Coajinicuilapa is a town in the state of Guerrero, and it is known for being home of the biggest community of Afro-Mexicans in the whole country. And it is known and called La Perla Negra del Pacífico, which means the Black Pearl of the Pacific. Here, they founded the very first museum dedicated only to Afro-Mexican history and culture. In early stages of the Spanish colonization, around 1580 and 1650, the Spanish brought more than 250,000 slaves to Mexico from different countries like Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Congo, Angola, and Mozambique. In the 1600s, Mexico had the largest slave population in all America. Naturally, this resulted into the interracial offsprings between African, Spanish, and indigenous populations. Enslaved Africans who escaped captivity formed communities all across Mexico, and they were known as palenques. The most famous one was established in Veracruz in 1570 by Gaspar Yanga. He was known as one of the most famous Afro-Mexican national heroes. African-Mexican took an important role during Mexican independence and also the revolution, since they formed part of the armed forces who freed a lot of people in those times. One of the most famous Afro-Mexican characters in the Mexican history was General Vicente Guerrero, which until today he is the only Mexican president of African descent. Despite the participation of Afro-Mexicans in economics, culture, politics, and military contributions throughout history, Afro-Mexican communities today are marginalized and largely invisible and only recognized historically. In 2005, the Mexican Postal Service released stamps of a famous cartoon called Menguin Penguin, which immediately received a heavy backlash from civil rights groups who contested the caricaturist figures of the cartoon character. Activities and jobs for Afro-Mexicans range from fishing, agriculture, and domestic work, since 76% of Afro-Mexicans are considered to be lower or lower middle class. Even though the production of drama telenovelas in Mexico is huge and the industry is super huge too, there's a lack of participation from the Afro-Mexican community, and when they do participate, they tend to have roles that express negative and humiliating stereotypes. In 2016, Soy Afro, which means I am Afro, was a campaign launched by an anti-discrimination organization to raise awareness and pride for the American roots of culture. Mexico Negro, which is one of the most recognized organizations that advocate for Afro-Mexican rights in Mexico. And it was founded in 1997 by Sergio Peñalosa Pérez. La Tercera Raíz, which means the third root, was a governmental program that did a deep and huge research into the Afro-descent populations and communities inside the country. I want to finish by mentioning a few famous Afro-Mexican people that I would like to recognize for their talent and for being Afro-Mexican pride. Firstly, we have Alejandra Robles, who is a singer and dancer of traditional music. Her music represents her Afro-Mexican roots and that of the indigenous people. Next, we have Melvin Brown, who was a professional football soccer player that played with Team Cruz Azul back in 2001. And finally, we have Lupita Nyong'o, who is a famous actress. She was born in Mexico City and she was raised in Kenya. She had to come back to Mexico to learn Spanish when she was 16 years old, and then she went to college in the US. And finally, the results of the 2020 Mexican census indicated that there is 4.16 million people of African descent people in the country. Thank you.